Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Take a look at this nightmarish monstrosity. Gotta say, guy in a costume or not, I do not like this, and I would not like running into it in the dark, in the day, inside, outside, just no thank you all around. This video was posted to TikTok by Fastby Tess Horror with a description reading, Muslim traveler finds himself face to face with a monstrous creature lurking in the shadows. We don't have a lot of context for this footage, just that the guy behind the camera supposedly came across this gargoyle looking thing leering down at him from a ledge, and the man, completely shaken and petrified, started praying, and you can hear the terror in his voice as he does so. I find this thing deeply unsettling. This is what I kind of picture a genuine demonic creature looking like, although a lot of commenters say it looks like Frank from Donnie Darko, which, I mean, you know what, hey, that doesn't take anything away from it, still makes this creepy as hell. A man named Cody had started noticing odd things going on in his house one day, so he pulled out his phone and started recording. He'd noticed the light in the fridge and bathroom flickering. He also heard water running, so he peeked around the corner of the bathroom and, to his complete shock and confusion, found that the bathroom sink was on. And when a door behind him suddenly shut on its own, he really got freaked out and decided to step outside. He rang up his girlfriend, who urged him to just stay out of the house. Either there was an intruder or something else was going on, but none of it could be good. But Cody went back in to keep filming anyway, and suddenly found the place was a complete mess. Chairs had been knocked over, cupboards were open, so he immediately changed his mind and rightfully left the house again. And 2 hours later, he went back in, took a look in every single room to see if there's anyone there. He didn't find anything. That is, until he went back and looked at the footage that he'd taken later on. While he'd been filming his kitchen after having come back into the house that first time, he'd briefly panned across to his daughter's doorway. But while watching the footage back, he noticed something in the top right-hand corner, so he paused and zoomed in, revealing this. A ghostly looking face peering out from above the doorway. This chilled him to the bone, and it's easy to see why. There are some very dubious ghost videos and pictures out there, blurry, often hard to make out, but this looks legitimately terrifying. It's clearly a face, but it does not look human. Speaking of creepy as hell, be glad you don't live in the same building as this next guy. In this short clip, we see a man filming a staircase, lit up by the light from his phone. On the stairs is a man rushing up to the camera. Clearly his intentions aren't good. Either he's just trying to freak out our cameraman, or he's got something worse in mind. Luckily, the cameraman manages to shut the door before the crazed guy manages to get too close, but then, for whatever reason, he decides to open the door back up again to see if the dude's still there, I guess, and it doesn't look like it at first. You know, all we see is the dark, empty stairwell, but in true horror movie fashion, just as the camera peeks around the corner, we get this. It's immediately clear that there is something very wrong with this guy's eyes. Was this dude on something? Is the video just a hoax? Or was this man possessed by a demon or a djinn? Talk about a demon realizing they're being filmed. This thing is right up close, staring directly into this person's car. Take a look. Would you just sit there continuing to film this, or would you be tearing out of there? I know what camp I'm in. I'd be gone. Those are not the eyes of someone who needs directions or wants to be friendly in any way. Those are the eyes of someone whose mouth is about to stretch 3 times its normal size and devour your face in a single chomp. She's almost still as a statue, completely unblinking, which is really what makes the whole thing so downright chilling. But take note of her eyes, just ever so slightly shifting to the person behind the camera. It's such a slight little movement, but just sends shivers up your spine. The fact that she looks so dead-eyed, just staring off into the distance, and then slowly switches to look right down the barrel of the camera, right at us as the viewers. it's just hard not to avert your eyes a little bit. The surveillance camera ghoul. This footage was taken by a man named Mario Lara, who captured something deeply harrowing on camera in his store in Mexico. Take a look. Leading up to this video, Lara had begun to notice strange things going on in his store. He'd arrive in the morning to find things out of place, especially a piñata which would repeatedly be found on the floor, and one morning it was found in a totally different spot than he'd left it the previous night. He started to think someone was sneaking into the shop after closing and messing with things, so he set up a security camera. One night he gets an alert on his phone. The camera was detecting motion. The last thing he was expecting to see, though, was this ghoulish figure poking out from a pile of piñatas. It's hard to make that sentence sound ominous. I mean, piñatas, they're just so joyous. Well, unfortunately for Mario, though, things weren't joyous in the shop. Things just continued getting worse. His security camera continued picking up odd footage at night, like piñatas spinning around on their own. One of his power drills, which was sitting on the floor, seemingly turned on by itself one day, nearly hitting his foot. It seemed like whatever this entity was, it was not looking to be friendly, despite being surrounded by festive piñatas. This next video comes from a woman named Mandy Mary, who spotted something incredibly creepy on camera. Take a look at this. Did you catch that? It happens very fast, but as the lights flicker, you can spot what looks to be this shadowy figure peering out from the doorway, and it's definitely not there when the lights are on. Now, why did the lights flicker? Well, Mandy's son had flicked them himself. Mandy wrote in the description of the video, "This video is from my back house. My son was behind me when I recorded this. We were creeped out as we've seen a dark figure back there many times. So thought it would be a good idea to record there at night. We videotaped and he tried to spook me by flicking the light. The moment he turned off the light, you could see the outside light from the window. Within this outside light, you can see a dark shadow figure standing there. This wasn't us. Some of the people I've shown this to said, 'It's your son.' I said, 'No way. He was right behind me, and that shadow figure was in the middle of the window, reflection, not the door we were at. So no way it was him. Every night I see dark shadows walking back and forth, making my backlight sensor flip on and off. Also, about a month ago, something shook my door so hard it shook my entire hallway." Speaking of hallways, this next person was attacked on camera by what appears to be some invisible force in the hallway. Take a look. Yeah, damn right, turn around and go back where you came. Whoever this guy was visiting, whatever plans he had at the end of that hallway, they were crossed off his list as soon as he hit the ground. What in the hell happened there? This CCTV security camera footage was taken in what looks to be the hallway of some sort of facility, like a doctor's office. Could also be an apartment, but it's hard to tell. You'll notice that before the guy even falls down and gets dragged, this black shadowy shape starts to form, and once it drags the guy a few feet down the hall, it fades back away, releasing the man, who rightly gets up and books it back down the hall. This next one has to be one of my favorite spooky internet videos. Some have compared this creepy woman to a witch, others have said it may be a djinn. Whatever she is though, she's downright creepy, and this just makes for a very unsettling watch. The video was apparently shot in Saudi Arabia. It shows a man driving on a narrow, empty road. As he's driving, we can clearly spot this strange, hunched figure in the distance. The figure moves in this really unnatural way, hobbling around. It's also hard to make out where its head is because it's all hunched. It just looks completely wrong. And the man filming thinks so too, because you can clearly hear how terrified he is. He sounds completely panicked, even on the verge of tears. Honestly, his reaction is kind of what makes the video. At one point he tries to reverse away from the figure, but the road is so narrow and winding that he can't move very quickly, and the witch-like figure just keeps gaining on him, waddling towards the car with that unsettling gait, getting closer and closer, but never deciding to get right up close. It's like she's just toying with him. Unless you've been hiding under a rock for the past couple years, which based on some of the videos on this list, I can understand why you would, you've probably heard of the Serbian dancing lady craze. People coming across lone women dancing in the street late at night for seemingly no reason. Take a look at this. Sorry, not sorry. That one gets you? Look, it's spooky season now. You gotta be ready for this sort of thing. Gotta be on your toes. All right, well, I don't think it gets any more classically demonic looking than this image here. The photo shows a large winged figure. It was taken in Phoenix, Arizona by a man named Richard Christensen in 2017. He wasn't sure what he captured, and neither was anyone else. Some people think it looks like a Mothman, others think it might look like an angel, or, of course, the opposite. So you wake up one morning to find holes in your garage door. You check your security camera to see what's going on, and while skimming through the footage, you see this. Now, I can't find the source of the original video here, so if any of you can, please let me know down below. But my God, whatever the hell this thing is, it doesn't appear to be human. I think if I saw holes in a wooden door in my backyard, I might think it was a raccoon, maybe a large rat. But Gollum? I think that's the last thing I'd be expecting or wanting to see. The pig demon. Take a listen to this before I give you all the backstory. Can you make that out? Sounds a lot like someone saying, I have the body of a pig. Which wouldn't be so freaky if anyone in the room had said that they remembered hearing it, or that they'd said it themselves. But nobody did. It wasn't until they looked over the footage later that this audio came up. This video was uploaded to YouTube by Devin Raymond, who wrote in the description that the recording was an EVP, or electronic voice phenomenon, picked up in a secret location during his tenure as a special guest and resident expert with a group that he can't disclose. Now, the EVP on its own is pretty disconcerting, but check out what they caught on camera later on. While filming into a dark crevice, they picked up this still image right here. Definitely would have been disturbing in person, or even going back and looking at the footage you'd taken earlier, knowing you were right there with whatever this thing was. But I like the fact that this demonic spirit or ghost or whatever it may have been would just announce to everyone, I have the body of a pig. And you look at it, it's like, I guess, yeah, you do look a little piggish. This next video comes to us from Reddit user Kipper2. Take a look. Now, pretty much everyone in the comments, including me, is saying this is a reflection on the window coming from inside the house. And while you could say it's just someone standing behind the camera person, take a closer look at the reflection. That looks like the demon face that shows up at the end of Skinamarink. Just what the hell is that? It looks almost like two faces kind of attached together. Kipper2 also gave some context in the description, writing, a family member of mine shared this live photo she took of a deer in her and her husband's front yard. The two of them lived alone in this old southern farmhouse, previously owned by an older gentleman who had passed away in the home. She'd complained a few times about hearing walking in the attic. It wasn't long after this photo that they decided to move out. And yeah, best not to take your chances and just get out of there. See what happens when you mess with Ouija boards? Take a look at this. This video was posted to YouTube by Ouija Warning, a very apt name for a channel with a video like this. In the 2 or so minute clip, we watch as a group of girls and dudes mess with a Ouija board. One woman in the video, the one who ends up freaking out at the end, is laughing and joking the whole time as the planchette begins spelling out Zozo. She then asks if the spirit's name is Zozo, and when the planchette moves to yes, she begins to laugh again. Only this time, her laughter becomes less joyful and more hysterical, in a pained, panicked sort of way. Now, I've talked about Zozo on the channel before, a demonic entity said to haunt Ouija boards. An entity so malicious it's been known to cause physical harm on those who are unfortunate enough to run into it. Basically, if you're playing with a Ouija board and you end up contacting an entity and the letter Z or Z, depending on where you live, comes up at all, just stop right there. It's such a rare letter, unless you asked it what its favorite anime is and the words dragon and ball came before, just don't take your chances. The Valentown ghost. This footage was taken in the Valentown Museum in Victor, New York. Take a look. On April 21st of 2006, paranormal investigation was being carried out at the museum. Now, the quality of this footage isn't great, but you do see what looks like a semi-translucent figure walking out of the shadows, and past the camera. This has actually become a rather famous piece of footage in paranormal circles as well, because apparently it's never been fully definitively explained. According to the New York Haunted Houses website, the historic Valentown Museum was built in 1879, originally called Valentown Hall. It's a 5-story building which is now a museum with thousands of old artifacts and a good number of ghosts. Spirits have been known to play an old-fashioned music box, move tools around in the basement, and people have even seen full-blown apparitions. So, is this strange figure in the video one of these ghosts? Let me know your thoughts down below. This image right here comes from Reddit user According Pangolin84, who writes, "I'm not familiar with ghosts and paranormal things, so I don't know the logic behind anything, but I came across this old photo I have from a haunted mansion in Utah. This place was a hot spot to break into during high school, and my friends did it and wanted a photo while I stayed back in the car. The figure in the back is what I suspect to be some kind of ghost. I only had 2 friends go in the house for a photo." The Reddit user also gave some context about this haunted mansion itself in a follow-up post, writing, "It's called the Benjamin Pump House in Utah. It has no electricity and is pretty much empty on the inside besides garbage. Growing up, I heard a lot of stories about scary interactions in the house, people reporting footsteps and the feelings of being watched. As far as my friends and what they felt, all I can recall is them talking about what sounded like someone walking through the brush around the house, and there was a weird creaking that also circled around the house, but nothing in relation to being watched or feeling like there was someone else in there." This image here was shared by Reddit user PositiveCable1487, who writes, "Earlier this month, my sister and her partner went to the Stanley Hotel. Don't know the backstory on the mirror, but apparently there are many reports of sightings in it. This is the photo my sister took. She said the mirror was squeaky clean in person, no smudges." Now, this image may not be all that creepy on its own, but the Stanley Hotel definitely is. Let me tell you fine folks about it. The Stanley Hotel is famously the hotel that inspired Stephen King to write The Shining. He'd been snowed in there with his family in 1974 while on a trip to the Rocky Mountains National Park. They happened to be the only guests there and found the place rather eerie. And King isn't the only guest to have found the place unsettling. Tons of people have reported spooky encounters at the hotel, like the ghost of a woman named Mrs. Wilson, former chambermaid, said to haunt room 217. Staff have reported hearing sounds of people dancing and laughing in the ballroom, only to find nobody there. Guests will often report seeing dark figures standing over their beds at night, and it's said that the spirit of the former landowner, Lord Dunraven, will often be seen staring out the window of room 407. From TikToker Ahab Kasmaya1 comes a terrifying encounter he had while exploring an abandoned building. He's filming down a dark hallway when suddenly a knocking sound is heard off camera, and when the urban explorer pans to take a look, this is what happened. Now, instead of screaming at the top of his lungs and running away at top speed, the brave man begins praying instead, and the entity retreats back into the shadows. Which, you know what, hey, seemed to work great and all, but here's another idea: just don't be there in the first place. You win every fight you walk away from at the end of the day. Reddit user HealthyMagician895 posted this series of images here, along with a description reading, "I was messing around in my mom's room taking a video when my friend pointed out something at the corner of the door. At the end of the video, I went back to the mirror, but it was gone. Can somebody explain this? I'm genuinely creeped out." And yeah, fair enough. I'd be genuinely creeped out too if I saw that thing peeking out at me from the doorway. Here's what's interesting about this photo too. It reminds me a lot of a video I shared in part 1. If you'd like to watch part 1, by the way, link is in the description. But just for a quick comparison, check this out. Yeah, pretty eerily similar. Even the positioning. What do you all think though? Hoax? Or is there a ghoulish demon thing crawling around people's houses and peering out at them from the tops of door frames? I certainly hope not. Imagine hearing a noise in your hallway at 3 a.m., going out into your hallway to check it out, and spotting this. This one comes from TikToker Official Empty Alien. I don't even care that's not real. I had to throw it on here because that is some fuel for your nightmares right there. The long fingers slowly creeping into frame. I think that's what really does it for me. This is pretty much the exact face I'd scare the crap out of myself, imagining it as a youngster popping up in a window or glaring at me from the bottom of the stairs at night. It's kind of uncanny actually too. The white face, the glare, the big eyes and the teeth. I don't know, it's always what I'd imagine for whatever reason, and then I'd be up all night. Fun times. The town of Florala, Alabama, and parts of Florida were once stalked by a massive alligator. Nicknamed Two-Toed Tom, was often described as a 14-foot red-eyed hell demon, missing 2 toes on his left foot after getting caught in a trap. Now, stories of the gator eating livestock as well as farmers themselves started spreading in the 1920s. He was said to be impervious to bullets, and one famous tale even goes that a farmer named Pap Hines found one of his mules torn apart by what looked to have been a large alligator. So he and his sons filled 15 syrup buckets with dynamite, tossing it into the nearby pond to try and get rid of whatever creature they figured had crawled out of there to feed. Well, instead of killing the beast, they just enraged it. Out of the pond came the massive hellish gator known as Two-Toed Tom, who brutally attacked the farmer's granddaughter, eating her whole. Hines fired at the creature, but to no avail.
Ojai, California is said to be home to an incredibly terrifying demon with an incredibly heartbreaking past. Legend says that in 1948, a large bushfire broke out and destroyed everything in its path. Forests, grasslands, and even a few homes, one of which belonged to the father of who is now known as the Charman. When the fire engulfed the father and son's home, it claimed the life of the Charman's dad and badly burned the Charman himself. Due to the devastation of the fire, it was weeks before anyone was able to reach the home and provide support to any of the survivors of the fire. It was in this time that the Charman is said to have gone mad and to have given up his soul to some kind of demonic force. Apparently, when rescuers arrived, the Charman's father had been strung up by his feet, and the man's burnt skin had been almost entirely removed from his body. To this day, the Charman is said to haunt the Creek Road Bridge in the town, also known as Charman Bridge now. But it's a bit more than local legend, because apparently the local police station routinely receives calls about disturbances related to the Charman in the area he's believed to haunt, which makes the whole thing just a bit more real and a whole heck of a lot more terrifying.
A demonic dog is said to stalk a small stone church in the small mountain town of Valle, Crucis, in Watauga County, North Carolina. If you stop just off Highway 194 at the edge of town, you'll find an old church, and in the churchyard cemetery, if you're driving at night, you may be lucky enough, or rather unlucky enough, to come across a demonic creature known as the Demon Dog of Valle Crucis, a beast who lurks in the shadows of the old churchyard. Best case scenario, he'll just scare you away. Worst case scenario, you'll have found your final resting place. The story goes that 2 friends were out for a drive one night along the highway near the old church. The night was eerily quiet, but they were chatting away, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. But as they rounded a sharp corner, a dark figure suddenly jumped out from behind one of the old gravestones, landing right in front of the car. They slammed on the brakes and swerved onto the narrow shoulder of the road. They caught their breaths, slowly turning their necks to see what they'd almost hit. It looked to be a dog, but not a normal dog. This thing was as big as a full-grown man. Its fur was jet black and sticking up. Its teeth were bright yellow and impossibly sharp. And then there were its eyes, glowing bright, fiery red. The friends watched in horror as the beast started to move toward their car, and the driver slammed his foot on the gas, roaring down the road at top speed. There was no way this thing could have caught up with them. But when they glanced in the rearview mirror, their hearts sank. The dog was still behind them, and not only was it keeping up with them, it was closing the gap. The driver pressed the accelerator to the floor. They flew toward a bridge that crossed a small stream where 2 waters met. Just as the monstrous dog was about to reach them, though, it stopped, right as the car made it over the bridge. Valle Crucis is Latin for Valley of the Cross, where these two rivers meet, creating this kind of cross-like formation. Not ideal for a hound from the pits of hell.
In the small town of Cumberland, Rhode Island, a man known as Fingernail Freddy once lived peacefully until one day he got into an argument with a group of young people trespassing on his property. In the heat of the argument, he fired a round of rock salt at the group, who then left the scene. Freddy assumed that would be the end of it, but unfortunately for everyone involved, it was not. Apparently, in the dead of night, the group of trespassers snuck back onto Freddy's land and set his house ablaze. The fire claimed the lives of Freddy's wife as well as his sons and daughters, and Freddy himself suffered from extensive long-lasting injuries as well. After the ordeal, it is said that Freddy retreated into the woods where he stopped grooming and started plotting his revenge. At the end of his life, his fingernails had grown incredibly long and his soul had become incredibly dark. Many locals believe that after his death, Fingernail Freddy became some kind of demon that now haunts the town, scratching on the doors and windows of unruly individuals who remind him of the ones that ruined his life and destroyed his family.
Skinned Tom is an entity said to be just as grotesque looking as he sounds. He has no skin and his organs are exposed, still pulsating as if alive. If you find yourself on a date in Rogersville, Tennessee, you may want to avoid driving to any lovers' lanes. Rather than your typical tale of a killer with a hook for a hand, you may run into a skinless, undead monstrosity named Skinned Tom, who gets irrationally enraged when he sees couples making out in parked cars. As most, serial killers of his ilk do, the tale goes that there was once a handsome guy named Tom, known for his charm and good looks. He had a knack for getting into relationships with women who were already married. And one night, while parked at a secluded lover's lane with someone else's wife, Tom found himself face to face with the woman's furious husband, a very furious husband. The enraged man decided to make Tom suffer. He beat him before skinning him alive. And Tom, rather than, taking his anger out on the husband, was left with a burning hatred of all couples, especially the women. And ever since that night, his restless spirit is said to roam, never to find peace until he tracks down the woman who watched him die, while, of course, slaying every innocent couple he sees on his way.
The legend of the Beast of Bladenboro, said to haunt the small town of Bladenboro in North Carolina, dates all the way back to the 1950s, during which time it is said that the town was held hostage by a large cat-like vampiric beast for almost a week. In total, this beast claimed the lives of 8 dogs, a family of cats, 1 lamb, and even a few villagers. After the ordeal, word got around to the neighboring villages and hunters started spilling into the small town, eager to catch a glimpse of the beast and even more eager to kill it. At the height of the panic, almost 1,000 hunters had traveled to the small town of Bladenboro, and in the end, an 11.5 kilogram, 25-pound bobcat was presented to the villagers, who were quick to believe their troubles had ended. Unfortunately, that was not the case, as rumblings and sightings of the massive beast are still reported in the area to this day.
New Orleans is absolutely full of spooky urban legends, one of which is the tale of the Devil Man, who is said to once stalk the city's Algiers neighborhood. Sightings of a horned humanoid creature with chicken eyes and long pointy ears started being reported in 1938. And as silly as this description sounds, people were actually pretty terrified at the time. See, this was about 20 years after the infamous unsolved case of the Axeman, a very real serial killer who terrorized the people of New Orleans between May of 1918 and October of 1919, before vanishing just as suddenly as he'd appeared. In an infamous letter written in March of 1919, the Axeman had described himself as a sort of supernatural demonic entity, and added the fact that he was never caught, it actually got people kind of questioning. So when multiple people from the same neighborhood began telling stories of a horned demon monster running through the streets at night, saying mean things to women and trashing bars, it really didn't seem all that far-fetched, especially because this thing seemed to be more, of a trickster, rather than a man hell-bent on just straight up killing you. So it was like, why not believe it?
This next demon is probably my absolute least favorite because if you blink you might miss it. And it might kill you. It's the Blink Man, also known as the Peeping Tom of Ellicott City, Maryland, a demonic entity believed to haunt a tunnel located in the town. No one really knows how he came to be, but they do know to steer clear of staring down the tunnel at night if they want to avoid any kind of run-in with an early death. Although, I suppose it's not that bad when you take into consideration that one must follow a very specific set of rules in order to come face to face with the infamous demon. Rules that involve staring down the tunnel for an entire hour from midnight till 1 a.m. When that clock strikes 1 a.m., it's reported that the Blink Man will appear in your vision, and that every time you blink, he will appear closer and closer and closer until eventually he's standing right in front of you, ready to end your life and eat your flesh.
In Iowa City, you'll find a grave marker known as the Black Angel. It was built in 1913 and stands in the Oakland Cemetery. This 8.5-foot tall sculpture wasn't always black. It used to be a shiny bronze, but over time it turned dark, giving it the creepy appearance that it has today. And there are tons of legends about what might have caused it. Some people believe it's a sign of a curse, while others say it's because of all the sins of the people buried beneath it. One of the most popular legends says that anyone who touches or kisses the statue at midnight will die within a year. It's said that the angel's black color is a warning, and anyone who ignores it is doomed. And if you're ever visiting and happen to be superstitious and pregnant, you might want to avoid walking under the wings. It's said you'll miscarry. There are also tales of ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences around the statue. People have reported feeling this overwhelming sense of dread as they approach it, and some claim to have seen glowing eyes in the angel's face at night. Others say they've heard whispers or felt cold spots in the air, as if the statue is watching and judging those who come near.
It has been said that a demon reigns over Utah's Escalante Petrified Forest State Park. Furthermore, the demon is said to curse anyone who is stupid enough not to A. obey the law, and B. heed the warnings of the locals and go ahead and remove a piece of petrified wood from its forest home. While there is quite a hefty fine for those who get caught attempting to make off with unlawful souvenirs foraged from the area, the supernatural consequences tend to be far worse. Because of this, from as far back as the 1930s, the park has received a steady stream of packages containing both the pieces of stolen petrified wood and letters from the people who stole them, begging park rangers to put those pieces back where they came from. Many of these letters also include personal accounts of the terrible things that have happened to the thieves since removing the pieces, with some people claiming to have gone broke, experienced medical complications, and occasionally deaths have occurred as well. Apparently though, besides the curse, the forest is really beautiful, but if I were you, I'd wait and grab the souvenir from the gift shop. It is said that a demon's eye color signifies its order in the mythological hierarchy of the demon society, with black-eyed demons being the most common and the weakest demons around, which, by the way, in no means stops them from being absolutely terrifying in every way, shape, and form imaginable. Anyways, it is said that the black-eyed demons are subservient to higher-ranking and stronger demons, and while they may appear small, they tend to travel in groups ranging from 5 to 100, so keep that in mind. These demons are also said to be incredibly strong, fast, and durable. You want to break their legs? It doesn't bother them. Maybe drive a stake through their heart. Better luck next time. Even automatic projectiles won't stop these guys, and that is because the demons are not really connected to the bodies they possess. They just control them as though draped in an oversized mascot costume. And of course, they are also known to possess telekinetic abilities, and they really enjoy tormenting the living. So if you see one, run. A particular subject of black-eyed demons are the black-eyed young ones, best known for their mischievous and malevolent nature. The black-eyed young ones are paranormal creatures said to inhabit the bodies of specifically young people, likely because 1, that's insanely terrifying, and 2, it's a lot easier to lure people in when you seem like nothing more than a lost young person wandering the road at night or begging on the street corner. But don't think staying inside of your car or never leaving the house will keep you from accidentally running into one of these young-looking
demons. No, that would be too easy. In reality, these malevolent little trash creatures are known to be quite bold, approaching and knocking on car windows and doors, and even sometimes walking straight into homes and possibly your bedroom and other buildings despite receiving absolutely no invitation. Generally, you will know you have encountered a little demon before ever seeing their eyes, as they are often said to be accompanied by an almost crippling sense of both fear and dread. So if you're feeling fearful and dreadful right now, look around.
Stories of youngsters with pure black eyes, like the ones Hannah just mentioned, have been told around campfires for decades, but the first written stories may have come about in 1996 from a Texas reporter named Brian Bethel. Bethel had a terrifying encounter in 1996, and the story of this encounter ended up on a message board. The story quickly spread to other early internet forums, and today many view it as a sort of proto-creepypasta, but to this day, Bethel insists that he wasn't making any of it up. He'd been sitting in his car in a parking lot outside a movie theater one night in Abilene, Texas. He was dropping off a check and was using a street light in the parking lot to write it. Just as he was getting ready to drive off though, he suddenly heard a knock on his window. He looked up to see a pair of young boys staring down at him. Through the window he could hear their muffled voices pleading with him to give them a ride. But there was something off. Why were these two boys out alone so late at night? More importantly, why were their eyes pure black? No sclera, no irises, just deep black orbs. Bethel immediately felt this oppressive sense of doom in the pit of his stomach. Without thinking twice, he put his foot on the gas and roared out of the parking lot. He knew something was very, very wrong. He shared his story in private emails to two coworkers, but eventually it ended up in the local paper and then the internet. Bethel expected everyone to think he was crazy, and some did, but others began sharing their own stories. Aside from the Brian Bethel account, the next most well-known Black Eyes encounter came from a Reddit post 13 years back with the heading, "Warning to people in Portland, Oregon metro area this Halloween." The Redditor said that his neighbor, who was known for his elaborate Halloween decorations, hadn't put out his usual display, and the neighbor ended up telling him that he planned to keep his house dark this Halloween because of a frightening experience he'd had the year before. The neighbor said that after his brother's family had left, he received a late night visit from two teenagers who weren't in costumes, but they did have unusually large irises and dilated pupils. They asked to use his phone, claiming they were lost. The neighbor immediately felt off. Something just didn't seem right about these two. He thought they might have been on something or were going to try and rob him, so he sent them away and locked the door. Then he stayed up all night, just terrified that they might try to break in. The Redditor listened to what his neighbor said and was immediately reminded of the urban legends of the black-eyed entities. So he mentioned the legend to the neighbor, who had never heard of them before. And later the neighbor returned to the Redditor's house visibly disturbed, saying he found the similarities pretty striking. He'd obviously gone online to read about it himself.
This next story comes from Reddit user Wonder Wookman. I think they probably spelled woman wrong or it was taken. Anyways, it goes as follows. What happened was one night I was in bed and something woke me up, but I wasn't sure what it was. I just knew something forced me to wake up. So at that point I rolled over and looked around my room and it's bathed in this blue light. There was a window in my room, but there's nothing that would cause it to light up blue like that. It was bright enough though that I could make out the details of objects in my room. And on my floor was someone or something crouched down, and it looked like they were maybe playing with a toy. It was hard to tell because their back was to me, but there was definitely a young human crouching there. Thinking it was my stepbrother who came into my room to play with a toy that he had left in there or something, I asked if it was him. I don't remember much after that, but I do remember this thing turned around, still in the crouch position, and when it looked at me, all I saw were completely black eyes and pale white skin. I remember pulling the blankets up over my head because it terrified me so bad, but that's all I remember. I never had an experience like that again, but the house I grew up in was super haunted and my entire family had so many experiences that we've tried to explain, but never could. I don't know about you guys, but in that situation I probably would have given that small little demon a big old roundhouse kick and then run out of the room rather than just throwing a blanket over my head and hoping for the best, but you know, to each their own, I guess.
Apparently there are a good number of black-eyed sightings in Cannock Chase in Staffordshire, England, for some reason. Just in 2022, a story came out in the Staffordshire News about a young couple who had a traumatizing encounter while camping. It was around midnight when they started to hear what sounded like a young girl giggling outside their tent. They unzipped it and turned on their flashlights to see what the hell was going on, and spotted a small girl running from tree to tree, hiding behind them and intermittently poking her head out to peer at them. Then she, or it, walked out into a clearing right in front of them and just stared, continuing to giggle. Her eyes were nothing but black. The girlfriend claimed that it, quote, moved in ways humans simply can't move. It was like it could teleport from one place to another when it was moving around and hiding behind the trees, end quote. Then the thing bent down, adjusted its shoe, and skipped down a path leading deeper into the woods. The couple just huddled in their tent, terrified, waiting for the sun to rise.
This next story comes from Reddit user Bailey Diane. It goes like this. I was working in an office that did mainly business-to-business sales. Since we weren't in a great part of town and we weren't exactly open to the public, I kept the door to our office locked. The only way to work the lock was with a key from either side. I had stepped outside to go on a sales call, but before I did, I looked out the window and there were two young boys walking about a block away from me. No big deal. I could easily be safely to my car before they reached where I was, but before I knew it, the young men were much closer than they should have been. It was like they had walked a city block in a split second. My fight or flight kicked in. I had no reason to be afraid, but I felt a deep fear. So I went back inside and locked the door. I'm not even sure how to describe the fear I felt that led me to rush back inside though. All of a sudden, these young men started banging on the door. Only one of the two of them spoke. He said, "We need a phone, let us in." I yelled no through the door, but he kept banging on the glass so hard that it was vibrating. I threatened to call the cops, but they kept banging and begging to use the phone. So finally I got brave enough to get a better look at them so I could give a description to the police, and their eyes were pitch black. I'm not super religious, but in the moment, for some reason, I just yelled, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave," and they disappeared. Just vanished. End of story. That sounds terrifying. I mean, as if young people weren't already intimidating enough. You go ahead and throw some demon in there and you've got enough nightmare fuel to last you all year.
From Reddit user Baby Milk Cow comes the story of the demon in the closet. Not my story, but my dad's. He grew up with a single mom and 4 other siblings in southeast Texas on the border of Louisiana. He says he and his brother were sleeping on the couch in their living room, and they both woke up to a black-eyed youngster standing in the doorway of their closet. He said the thing looked older than them by a little, had black eyes and orange hair, and had a slight glow to him, like he was under his own spotlight. He said he and his brother tried to scream, but nothing would come out. The thing just disappeared after that. The reason everyone knows this is true? Well, a couple months ago, me, my mom, and my dad were at my grandma's house, and my uncle was watching a documentary on black-eyed demons. When my dad brought up what had happened to them all those years ago, my uncle started tearing up and just kept repeating, "Man, you seen that too? I thought it was crazy. I can't believe you seen him too." My uncle has a history with illicit substances and mental health problems, and for over 50 years he assumed what he saw was fake and just his mind playing tricks on him. It's sad because we think that this situation shook him up so badly he started using as a teen to cope with the thought that he may have been crazy. They were so scared they just never brought it up ever again after that, but my dad always told my mom that story ever since they started dating. My grandma, who was sitting there listening to them talk about what happened, just said, "Oh, there was something in that house, Lord."
This next story comes from Reddit user LogDog1201. When I was about 16, I had started developing a sleep paralysis phenomenon. It happened every other night or so. Most times when I woke up in an episode, it didn't feel right. Something felt odd every time. I could see my room and still hear my fan, but something felt like it was almost watching me. I thought it was normal paranoia, as most say you experience in sleep paralysis, but the 4th time I experienced it, there was a young person-looking figure sitting at the edge of my bed. It turned towards me and just stared with its pitch black eyes. I was freaking out a lot, and it's worse because you can't scream or move, just watch. The young creature then stood up, got off my bed and walked right through my wall towards my sister's room. I fell asleep shortly after that, but I brought this encounter up to my sister a year later or so, only for her to say that she saw a young person with no eyes in front of her closet doorway just staring at her. End of story. I have to say, if my sibling told me they saw a literal demon crawl through their wall and into my room and all they did was go to sleep, I would be livid. They would literally never hear the end of it, ever. Luckily everyone's okay, but still, I'd be pissed.
This final tale is one I'm going to call the Apple. It's been floating around the internet for years now, and it has this perfect urban legend type of charm about it. So a woman in Texas is puttering around the house when she hears her doorbell ring. She answers the door and finds two youngsters standing on her doorstep. One is holding an apple. She's immediately taken aback by the fact that, yes, they both have pure black eyes. They ask the woman if she can let them in. Now, this is already very odd, but even stranger, she's out in a very rural area, basically in the middle of nowhere. Just where exactly did these two come from? Then this deep sense of dread starts to fill the air when one of the black-eyed visitors asks the woman, "Can I at least have some ketchup for my apple?" The woman declines and shuts the door, immediately locking it.
Kicking off the list at number 10, William Thomas Stead. Born in 1849, William Thomas Stead was the son of Congregationalist minister, and at the age of 22, he was appointed as editor of the Northern Echo, a regional newspaper in Darlington. This British medium, Richard Borsonov, featured a photo of W.T. Stead and a spirit. Or a demon. One of the two, both pretty terrifying. While William was investigating a spiritual case, he took this photo with what's supposed to be the spirit of Pete Botha. Now, the reason many believe that maybe the spirit is evil is that Stead later on died in the Titanic. He boarded the ship to take part in a peace congress at Carnegie Hall, and survivors mention William Thomas Stead a few times. Apparently at dinner, he was chatting his way throughout the entire 11-course meal, recounting exciting, spooky times in his life, even mentioning a cursed mummy that he encountered at the British Museum once. That's a little odd for table talk. He even gave his life jacket to another passenger that night too. Stead would often claim that he would one day pass due to hanging or to drowning. And right before he was to be awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize, he passed away due to the latter. Was he cursed? I believe so, to be honest with you. What do you guys think? Number 9, the demonic boy photograph. It doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've probably seen this photo at some point. All those late nights when you're scrolling through Reddit, you've probably seen this at some point. I know I have, and every time I see it, I'm kind of like, it looks pretty real. It's pretty haunting. You know when you see a photo, sometimes you get bad vibes, like it registers in your brain as something scary and real. Like you want to find something that looks fake about the photo, but it's tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It appears to be a young boy or ghost, spirit, demon, whatever, with glowing white eyes. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared. And it makes it even creepier that the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. Like he knew something was coming almost, he didn't want to get caught. That's the creepiest part here. A photographer named Gene Campbell took it, and Gene was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren at the time. Yeah, the famous duo now rocking the big screen Conjuring universe. This was a real thing. They were on this case in real life. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken, and it was revealed on the Merv Griffin show. Imagine seeing this on a show, like Jimmy Kimmel whips this out. It's like, hey, we're gonna play Plinko. Check out this demon. Many believe this is the ghost of John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior during the 1974 event. Now we're still trying to cover this one, but what do you guys think? Is this an elaborate hoax? Is this a young boy? Or is this one of the many demons that was said to haunt the house? Sound off down below. Number 8, the SS Watertown. This picture here perhaps is one of the creepiest on this list. I'm not sure what to think of this one. It comes from 1924 and it shows what appears to be two older men, or two older figures almost. I don't know, it's water, it's hard to tell. Some believe it's James Courtney and Michael Meehan in the water. Now the two had previously died and were buried at sea, hence that's why their first thought was them as to who it was. Other crew members saw these strange faces in the water as well, so when they turned back to get another look, 5 out of the 6 photos showed nothing. This was the only photo that showed what they saw. Are these the two lost crewmen, or is the vessel haunted by sinister forces? Number 7, backseat driver. This photo is from 1959. Okay, it was taken by a lady named Mabel Chinnery, and the photo at first glance is just a classic 60s shot of a man in a car. That man was Mabel's husband. Now the man in the back seat, however, that back left seat, we have no idea who that was. Her husband apparently was the only guy in the car at the time. And also, that's a pretty tough angle. If you wanted to recreate this photo with your friends after work, like try this. This is a really hard shot, even with phones now. It would be hard back in the day. It's like he's appearing to us through the seat almost with that angle. So either this is a lie, which happens often, people can lie, and a man was sitting in the back left seat, or like Mabel thinks, maybe this is her dead mother-in-law. Now, if she had said father-in-law, I think maybe it was his spirit, but this for sure looks like an older gentleman with a collar or something. Kind of looks like, dare I say it, the devil. I don't know, I read a lot of comic books. Number 6, Coventry Society demon. You may be thinking, some of these may not be demons, Taylor, maybe they're just nice spirits who stuck around after they passed. Yeah, while it's nice to believe that, photos like this convince me otherwise. This is from the Coventry Freeman Society, and it shows everybody at this event dressed to the nines. But when you look at the top left corner over here, you see a hooded figure. Somebody that clearly doesn't belong with the vibe in this room at this event. Nobody else was seen also at any point at that night wearing a hood like this, so of course many believe it was a dark part of the afterlife photobombing this event. Honestly, I totally believe that. This is a weird one. The hood, maybe I've been watching Harry Potter lately, I don't know. Maybe it's a Dementor, we actually don't know. Number 5. The ghost pilot. Oh, this one gives me the creeps. I'm hoping it's just a friendly ghost. I included it because it's kind of nice, but you never really know, honestly. This one, I did some research, it's creepy. Any sort of spirit I don't welcome. Yeah, I don't gamble on the afterlife. I'm actually all set. The ghost pilot is a photograph that shows a spirit from 1987. A woman named Mrs. Sayer was visiting an airfield in England, so of course she did the classic tourist thing and got a photo in the cockpit. We all do it at some point, but do you ever think of who may have died in that exact spot before? After the age of 10 years old, I was like, you know what, I understand ghosts, I'm not gonna sit in that tank. I'm good, thanks. People swear the Titanic was a cursed ship and that spirits were responsible for the ship's bad luck. Now, next time you wanna sit in the pilot's seat, look around for spirits, because this image was developed and it appears that somebody or something was in the helicopter with Miss Sayer the whole time. Number 4, the Paris demon. Originally, the tunnels under Paris were built for stone mines, but near the end of the 18th century, it turned into something haunting. Cemeteries were starting to fill up, and I mean that in a literal sense, and humans didn't figure out how to be clean, so bodies would just be laying on the sides of the roads. They started to pile up over time, so the solution was to use these catacombs. They were no longer needed for those mines anymore, so might as well use them as a mass graveyard. And now we have the scariest basement in the world. We have walls of skulls that on one hand, it's cool as hell, it's natural history, it's gothic yet beautiful, but when Google Maps tried to give a user an up-close look, it seemed to have caught a shadowy demon figure. With more than 6 million souls laying down there, it doesn't shock me to hear about something like this at all. There's a video of the street view, and in it you can see this figure. Check it out yourself. Number 3, demons are us. For this next one, we'll be going down the Lego aisle. Yeah, how fun. A haunted Toys R Us. Can you imagine all those toys starting up at night by themselves? Bay Area's haunted Toys R Us is no longer a thing. Thankfully, as of 2018, that location closed down, but its tales, they live on forever. The Sunnyvale Toys R Us demonic presence appeared in the background of this photo. But of course, like others on this list, the people present at the time of the photo swear that nobody else was there. It's like everyone has bad memory, everyone has good memory, I can't really tell right now. It's like, could this be a spirit or a demon caught on tape that just happens to be at a Toys R Us? I vote yes. Employees talked about creepy things happening there at night all the time, and the Sunnyvale store is indeed haunted by more than one ghost, that's what people say. The store stood where the Murphy farm once stood, so many think the spirit is the ghost of Johnny Johnson. I don't know, the fact that Ouija boards are a toy that is commonly used to, I don't know, communicate with spirits, maybe closing these doors was the best call. I don't think we welcomed in any good spirits. I don't think any spirits are clocking in for work, you know what I mean? And now it's closed, so I'm like, it didn't work. Whatever we tried didn't work. Number 2, ghost boots. These boots are made for haunting, and that's just what they'll do. Yeah, I put a pair of boots on this list. That's where we're at now. This photo of a young girl may look like a classic family trip, but upon closer inspection, it seems like somebody or something is standing behind her. Now, of course, her father said that nobody was behind her at the time that it was taken, and I agree that, and like honestly, and I believe him. Honestly, that would be pretty weird if he was like, hey, can you stand right here? Yeah, you behind my daughter, don't move, but you stand right here in this open field, thanks. Ka-ching. I don't believe it, I don't buy it, it's weird. This shot was taken at Zushi Zenagawa, Japan, and you can see boots and what looks like clothing sticking out from behind the child's elbow. The kid's father said, I took a few photos, and when I was looking through them at night, I noticed the boots behind her. I took several photos in the same spot, but only one of them had boots. You always see that in movies, right? At night they're going through and they see like it's 2 a.m. It's never at a Walmart while it's being developed. They don't find these photos in a bright, busy area. It's always in like a dark kitchen. Ugh, it's creepy. So he freaked out and then put it on Reddit, and then now we're here. Full circle. And finally coming in at number 1, cave drawings. I know these aren't photos, but come on, there's nothing more eerie than humanity's origin, right? Let's do it. Let's go back. Let's turn the clocks back. And for archaeologists from around the world, this cave system in France doubles as the world's oldest art gallery. These Paleolithic paintings are haunting to look at. They were created from humans about 20,000 years ago, and it's now considered a heritage site. There's many of these caves around the world. So if you're thinking about sneaking down there in the Lascaux caves and taking a look yourself, well, you better think again. The cave was opened originally in 1948, but due to carbon dioxide levels from visitors, it was closed in 1963. Learning about our history is challenging, and when it's slowly fading away, that surely doesn't help. Just gotta hold your breath while you read. This is crazy. I'm currently reading a book called Supernatural by Graham Hancock, and in it he tries to dig through history to find the origins of spirituality, and markings in caves like these ones from ages ago definitely help. They resemble these demon-looking creatures almost, and this is long before religion. These drawings were supposedly from hallucinations, but many believe it's one of the first accounts of a demon interacting with a human. It's just drawn on a cave wall. Pec Merle is a cave in France that also has these strange drawings, and some say they resemble aliens, others of course voting demons. What do you guys think? This is from 25,000 years ago.
Caught on CCTV cameras. At number 10 is this first demon caught on CCTV. This eerie photograph from 2008 reveals something inexplicable, and it's not a Photoshop trick either. It's a real head scratcher. Neil Sandback, a photographer, was just doing his job, snapping pictures for a couple planning their wedding in Hertfordshire. But when he examined his digital shots, he found a puzzling figure. In the corner of the building, there was a glowing, ghostly apparition of a younger human. What's unsettling is the level of detail. You can make out facial features which oddly resemble more of a skull than a human face. Even more chilling, the farm staff had witnessed a similar figure, a young man in white nightclothes. Real or not, this one is a bone-chilling mystery. At number 9 is the man on CCTV. A car's dash cam captured something inexplicable. At around 2:30 in the morning, as the car cruised down a desolate highway, a man in blue shorts and a white t-shirt seemed to just appear out of thin air. The car then would go to pass right through him, and when the driver looked back, the mysterious figure had vanished into the night. It's like he just popped out of nowhere, materializing out of thin air from the ether itself. Was this a ghost? The skeptics argue it might be a shadowy illusion cast in front of the vehicle, but the truth remains as elusive as the apparition itself. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. I personally would really appreciate it if you did. At number 8 is the haunted barbershop CCTV. This unsettling video from just a regular barbershop, things take a bizarre turn. You see, at first, it seems just like an ordinary day with someone getting a haircut and the staff going about their business. But then, something spine-tingling happens. The barber's cape mysteriously moves on its own. It's the kind of moment that makes you wonder, did I really see that? So they decided to review the CCTV footage, and that's when the hair-raising reality hits them. Watch closely as the blue cape shifts inexplicably. You might be asking, when will someone notice? And they actually do, and their reaction is exactly what you'd expect. Now, here comes the most hair-raising part. This clip goes on to become even more disturbing, giving you the kind of creeps that make you question the boundaries of the known and unknown, leaving you lingering with that fleeting sense of eerie uncertainty. At number 7 is the Manchester office security footage. Security guards casually scanning through their surveillance screen on the early hours of November 1st were just minding their business, but then the mundane turns into a nightmarish roller coaster ride. You see, at precisely 3 a.m., the entire office undergoes a freakish transformation. All the computers' power go on simultaneously, casting an eerie blue glow. Then chairs begin to take flight, seemingly possessed by an invisible force. Cabinets swing open on their own, and the office paraphernalia dance like marionettes gone wild. A scene right out of a horror movie. Now, what's so peculiar about 3 a.m.? Well, some folks call it the witching hour. The boundary between our world and the supernatural realm supposedly weakens to a thin veil, allowing mischievous spirits to cross over. Could it be that these relentless entities chose this unholy hour to unleash their chaos on this unsuspecting office? The footage certainly raises more questions than it answers. Check it out for yourself. At number 6 is the Croatia found footage. A truly spine-tingling video from Croatia that'll make you question the very fabric of reality as you know it. So when these two guys are just chilling, have a good time, they suddenly spot something bizarre in the distance. At first they're just like, meh, what was that? And even laugh it off, but that's where it gets scary. This eerie figure starts getting closer and the dudes, well, I mean, they're strangely pretty chill. I mean, seriously, if I saw that thing, I'd be sprinting for the hills. The way it moves is just unnatural and disturbing, but hold on to your horses because it gets worse. When they finally make a run for it, the thing starts chasing them, standing upright like something out of a horror movie. And here's the kicker. The description claims that these guys vanished after this incident. Seriously, you'll want to check out the video and decide for yourself. At number 5 is the Ventura Bar. It's the dead of the night and chairs start sliding around by themselves. The bar manager shared this video on social media and it gave everybody the heebie-jeebies. Fast forward a few weeks and we've got more chair shenanigans, but this time it's broad daylight and people are watching in disbelief. Did somebody take off a vengeful spirit? That's one theory, and it's pretty eerie. But here's the kicker. This bar isn't your average watering hole. No, it's got a wall filled with pictures of every customer and employee who's passed away. Could this possibly be a ghostly reunion spot? And here in the video at 1 minute and 40 seconds, we might just be getting closer to discovering who these relentless spirits are. At number 4 is the chair out of thin air. Here we've got a spooky video showing a chair materializing out of nowhere. And that's just way more terrifying than just objects moving around. Could this chair possibly be from another dimension, or is there something more sinister going on? Take a look at this clip focusing on the middle desk around 2 minutes in. Between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 7 seconds, someone must have really ticked off a spirit or something. Now you might be thinking, maybe that chair was hiding in the shadows all along, but hold on, if somebody's under that desk, they would have pushed the chair against the wall, right? So how did it suddenly change direction and keep going? It's a head scratcher. Plus, this was filmed way after working hours, so unless somebody pulled an all-nighter under that desk just for this video, it seems like there's some spooky stuff going on in this office. At number 3 is the ghost alarm. Here's another intriguing clip coming from straight out of the ghost subreddit. This one was shared by user Raman8, and the title simply says, quote, "Something set off the security footage on one of our properties. Nothing was stolen. This is the footage." Take a gander at the video and you might just be up for some chills. Upon first glance, it seems like there's nothing out of the ordinary. But as you look closely, there's actually a shadowy figure lurking in the background, almost as if it's walking through thin air. Now, I know it might be easy to dismiss this as just a camera glitch or something, but that eerie outline of a person should be enough to send shivers down your spine. The Reddit user mentioned that the front door mysteriously opened, triggering the security footage. Could it be the work of a malevolent spirit? Some speculate that the ghost's energy triggered the alarm and opened the door, creating that ghostly appearance on the video. What's your take, internet detectives? Could this be genuine evidence of another worldly entity crossing into our realm? Or is this just a trick of the light and dust playing with our imagination? The user did some follow-up a year later, reporting no other strange incidents and no local spirit activity. It might be a one-time haunting, but it's still pretty unsettling. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts down below. At number 2, the water watches back. Back in 1924, aboard the SS Watertown, a bizarre and chilling incident occurred. You see, 2 crewmen, James Courtney and Michael Meehan, met a tragic end while cleaning the oil tanker's cargo tank. Gas fumes claimed their lives in an instant, and they were given a burial at sea near the Mexican coast. But the horror didn't end there. You see, the very next day, a crew member claimed to have seen their faces in the waves. A ghastly vision lasting a terrifying 10 seconds. This eerie spectacle repeated over several days. When the ship reached New Orleans, Captain Tracy, driven by the inexplicable events, decided to document it. He purchased a camera, and when those spectral faces emerged once again, he captured the hair-raising image you can now see here. Strangely, once this picture was photographed, all the sightings ceased. A spine-tingling tale of the unexplained phenomena that lingers in the annals of maritime history. And at number 1 is the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. No, not the Madonna of pop, but a mysterious figure from the afterlife. The Ghost Research Society of America stumbled upon this eerie enigma back in 1991 at the forsaken Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. While Mary Huff took pictures with her infrared camera, everything seemed pretty mundane, but the real shocker came during the development process. In one frame, a woman perched on a tombstone clad in outdated attire, gazing into the abyss. Who was this woman? Well, nobody knows. Was this her own grave she pondered on, or a loved one's? The chilling part is that no one ever saw this woman, yet there she was, captured forever in that still frame. A specter from the beyond. Pretty spooky, right?